I'm seeing a lot of desperation. And I'll tell you right up front, it's the desperation, it's that energy that repels what it is you desire. Let me say that again. It's the desperation, the energy, the vibrational energy of the desperation to get what you want that is actually repelling what you want. It's one of those interesting, kind of quantum physics paradoxes where it feels like it's happening in reverse, but it's not. And so here's a little process for you. And there's only four things that I want to talk to you about in terms of dealing with the situation we're facing right now, and with anything, in fact. So first, be clear about what your intentions are. Be very clear. Sit down and write them out. And don't write big, long paragraphs. Write a short sentence. And to write a short sentence about what your intentions are is not an easy thing to do, because it requires clarity. It requires succinctness. It requires that you choose your words very carefully. And so, whatever it is that you're intending, whatever it is that you desire, sit down and write it out as just one sentence. And I've found in my life, I've spent my life in brand strategy and communications. And to be able to say something succinctly is a very difficult thing to do. It takes a lot of work. And so let me give you an example. I was on the strategic side of the business. And so for me to develop brand strategies, communication strategies, any type of strategic maneuvers or tactical maneuvers, we had to be able to communicate that simply. Because if you go into some long diatribe about what it is you're trying to produce, you just lose everybody. People can't follow you. And so you have to say things succinctly. And then, of course, you give the story behind it to substantiate how you arrived at this kind of strategic maneuver or tactical maneuver. And so in communication strategy, so when you're developing campaigns, advertising campaigns, it always starts with a brief. And the brief, it's like you're briefing anything. You need to be very clear about what you're trying to achieve in the communication. And so they used to, as a part of the process, they'd go through all the various sections of it to provide the picture. But at the end of the day, there was this thing called a single-minded proposition. The single-minded proposition. And I can tell you, when I was briefing creative guys to produce campaigns, they would always go straight to the single-minded proposition. And they would look at it and judge the brief based on that. Now, that wasn't the right thing to do, but that's what they used to do. They used to go, let me have a look at that. Can I write an award-winning campaign, a powerful campaign that is, gets results around this single-minded proposition that you're presenting me? And so sometimes I would spend weeks, months developing that single-minded proposition, which could be 4 or 5 or 6 words long. And so getting simplicity, getting clarity, getting succinctness takes time. And so take the time to be clear about your intentions. So write them down. That's number one. Number two, assume it's done. Assume it's done. Accept it, believe it, know it has already transpired. Now you may say, but it's not in my material reality, Glenn. But it's probably in your material reality, but yet not yet in your timeline, which means it's on its way, but it hasn't arrived yet. And so just assume that it's on its way and it will be made material in your current reality when it's ready. But the assumption is it's already material and it's on its way to me. And so I can just relax. It's kind of like I remember one Christmas I really wanted a very specific thing for Christmas, and my parents were very cagey, and they kept saying, "Yeah, well, maybe it's going to arrive, maybe it's not going to arrive. We don't know yet. We'll just see. We'll see." And I was very, very desperate. I was only a little boy, right, 5 years old, and I was very desperate for this Christmas present. I just wanted it. All my friends had it, and I didn't have it. It's kind of that scenario. And so I went searching, and I found it in a cupboard. And I didn't say, and I just looked at it, and I went, "Oh my God, there it is. It's there." And I didn't say anything. I just relaxed. I just went into this relaxation. I just relaxed. I just went, it's done. I have it. They've got it for me. I'm happy. And so I went into this really peaceful state. It's quite interesting what happened. My whole energy changed around it. I went from desperation to knowing. And so I already knew it was there. It just hadn't arrived yet because it wasn't Christmas Day. And so this is what I'm talking about. In the assumption, in the assuming it's done, get your energy around this inevitability that it's already there. And so if we're talking about the RV, if we're talking about the med beds, or we're talking about anything else that you have created clarity around in terms of your intention, then just assume it's done. I mean, be very clear about what it is. Engage your imagination, engage your emotional state, your vibrational state around it, and be excited. And the assumption doesn't mean that you're not excited about it anymore. The assumption doesn't mean that you don't want it anymore. The assumption means it's done. It's already done. And then what happens is after that is the waiting period, the silence. Now, it's in that waiting period that people default back to the old programming and go, well, I just better check again. And so what's the kind of reality of that with the RV? People keep checking the channels. People keep checking their sources. They're checking their phone every 2 minutes. What's the latest update? What's going on? What's Wolvie saying? What's Sky Prince saying? What's, all of the, what's Holly Solano saying? What's Scott Brunswick saying? What are they saying? What's TNT Tony saying? Who can provide me with information so I can be absolutely certain. And so what you're defaulting back to is desperation. You're defaulting back to doubt. And as soon as you do that, you circuit break. As soon as you do that, you're back into the old pattern of repelling that which you desire. You've defaulted back to the old programming. And so it's in the silence, it's in the waiting that requires enormous discipline. As a leader, great leaders have discipline. Great leaders have discipline. And so you don't want to default back to checking my phone every 2 minutes to see the latest intel. Now, if you've signed up to, Dinar Recaps, if you've signed up to Bruce's Big Call, you're going to get, when the notifications happen, you're going to get it. I mean, you're not going to miss it. You're just not going to miss it. Just relax. You're not going to miss it. Okay. And so checking your phone every 2 minutes out of desperation is not going to help you. It's actually putting out energy into the collective that is repelling that which we desire the most. And so it's in the silence that you should refrain from the urge of checking, chasing, forcing, being desperate. Stop it. Stop. Stop. Just say, nope. I'm going back there again. Nope. No, it's cool. It's done. I know it's done. I believe it's done. I believe it's done. Now, and then inside the context of that silence, what actions are you taking? Because that leads us to the next one. So we've been around be clear, assume it done, silence, not going into desperation, and then embodying it, right? Living it. So start making decisions around the fact that it's already done. Start taking actions around the fact that it's already done. Now, you might say to me, but I don't have the resources. I don't have the money. That doesn't mean you can't be taking little steps that take you forward into what it is you want to do. And that could be planning. It could be doing little things. It could be saying, there's a little thing I can do that's kind of going to edge me forward. There's a little thing I can do that's going to edge me forward. And it doesn't require money. Or it doesn't require that you've been through the med beds and you're, at the peak of health and well-being. It's just you sitting there going, I'm going to do one thing today that is going to move me forward. One thing today that is going to move me forward. I once read this book called The One Thing, and it basically said, imagine doing just one thing every day that dramatically shifts the momentum to you achieving that which you passionately intend. Now, if you accumulate that over a year, 365 days, that's 365 actions you've taken that create massive momentum for you to move forward to achieve what you're achieving. And every time you do that one thing, you're already in the process of achievement. You're already on the journey of achievement. So it's not about the destination. It's about, am I continuing to move forward and achieve what I'm intending, what I'm passionately intending? Am I taking a step today to achieve? It's like when I lift weights, I've lifted weights all my life. It's not the one workout that does it. I'm going to do one workout and it's going to, all of a sudden I'm going to achieve, greater bone density, greater muscle density. I'm going to reshape my body in that one workout. It's like I used to go to a gym. I don't go to a gym anymore. I won't pay the fees for doing it. I've set up my own home gym. And so it's like I used to go to the gym and post New Year, you have this influx of people. There's just like this massive number of people turned up at the gym because they all did a New Year's resolution that they're going to get fit and healthy. I can tell you by the end of January, they're all gone. I mean, it was so funny. It's like they'll be gone by the end of January, and they are. And you might have out of that massive influx of people, just one person that stuck with it, one person that said, I'm staying. I'm going to do the work. And I've got to tell you, the percentage was very small of that one person who said, I'm sticking it out, I'm going to keep coming. And that one person that would come 3 or 4 times a week. And I used to notice, I'd always look around the gym and I'd go, that guy, he came on, after New Year's and he's still here. Where's the rest? Gone. Now, how do you think gyms make their money? They oversubscribe because they know people are not turning up. And so the gym's never going to be, overused or packed so full that you can't get to a machine. It just won't happen. Because we know from our old world that people just give up because at the end of 3 weeks, and I used to see people coming in, first time in the gym, they'd come in and they're trying to lift these really heavy weights. And so what happens is they get injured, they get sore. There's this effect called DOMS, delayed onset of muscle soreness, and usually it's within 48 hours. You're so sore you can hardly move. And so people go, I'll rest. I'll rest through the soreness. And then they come back and they go through DOMS again because they start lifting heavy weights again. And they're never going to last. And so this discipline is what I'm talking about. You've got to be able to say, I've got the discipline now of not only moving away from desperation, but the discipline of embodying that which I passionately intend. And when you embody it, when you start living it, making decisions around it and taking actions around it, you're in a state of knowingness. It's done. And it's not just for you. It's important that it is for you, that you develop this kind of energy, but it's for everybody else as well, because we know that we're connected to, we're individuals, we're sovereign beings having a personal experience, but we're all connected to the collective. And so if we are putting out that kind of energy of it is done, then that's the energy that's actually going to accelerate it to move towards us. It's going to accelerate the timeline. There is just no doubt in my mind that that's the way, the universal law, that's the way quantum physics works, is there's this collective energy that says we're ready. We're ready. And there doesn't need to be that many people. People keep saying, well, you need 50%, 80%, 90%. No, you don't. You just don't. The percentage is actually very small. I'm not going to put a number on it, but the percentage is actually very small to shift the pendulum into a different timeline or into accelerating the timeline that's already been manifested into our material reality, into our moment, into our experience. And so be clear, assume it's done. Silence requires discipline. Stop checking everything, stop going into desperation and embody it. Bring it into your life. Live it, feel it, know it to be true. Make decisions around it, take actions around it, that it's already done. If you are already wealthy, how are you going to think? How are you going to act? What are you going to do? How are you going to spend your day? Move into that vibrational energy, move into that mindset consciously. And if you're consciously moving into that mindset, you're already educating your non-conscious mind, which is running the show, by the way. We know that the non-conscious mind, some people call it the subconscious or the unconscious, whatever you want, but I call it the non-conscious. The non-conscious mind is what actually runs perception. And in many respects, perception is reality. What I'm perceiving is reality. So how do you actually control your own perception? It takes work, because we've got to work through the old programming. And the old programming, which has been there from the very first breath we've taken, is not easy to overcome. And that's why this process of letting go of that stuff, that stuff that is driving you into desperation, I must have it. But that's the old programming. And it was designed that way. It was designed so you would never get what you passionately intend. We were programmed to never get what we passionately intend. And so we've got to work to let that stuff go, to release, to literally to surrender and say, I surrender. Because I know it is done. It's an inevitability. It's inevitable. And so now what am I going to do with my day? How am I going to think? How am I going to talk? How am I going to respond, not react? How am I going to respond to stimulus? How am I going to run my day in the knowingness that I'm already enjoying everything that I passionately intend? I am enough. I already have everything. Have you ever noticed when, you really wanted something and then you let it, you got to a point where you just let it go? All of a sudden it starts turning up. And I've noticed that with job interviews. When I really wanted a specific job interview, I really wanted to work at a specific place. And then something happened where I just didn't think about that anymore. And all of a sudden they're on the phone calling me saying, we really want you to come in. It's like, what? And so you start to notice that when you let things go, and that doesn't mean you don't want them anymore or you don't care. It just means I'm emotionally, energetically detaching from the outcome. And I'm allowing it to happen.